describe it. Sometimes everything speaks for themselves. We're going to get right into it. Prize cards going down and a little peek of what we're about to see. Ram, going to be on this LostBox going up against the Regis that we've been talking about.
Yeah, RegiGigas going to be playing against LostBox, and this is a matchup that is fairly interesting. Looks like the prize cards aren't too impactful for either player. Of course, plenty of Regis to pick from, so you've got to make sure you have the right ones at the right time, but hopefully not going to be too painful for Matthew.
Hopefully not. And you have to hope in this situation too, on that LostBox, things aren't going to be too painful for Michael heading into this, considering it could be a little bit of a tricky matchup.
Yeah, this is at least Michael's going to start things off here with that Battle VIP pass and get going, but it can be a slippery slope if you do not get cards into the Lost Zone and start attacking early on and taking some early knockouts, early prize cards. The math doesn't line up very well against the Regis deck. Thankfully, the Zekrom actually does line up pretty well, but we're not going to find that through the rest of the Pokemon here. So Zekrom might have to do some early work.
Yeah, and it's going to be starting in that active, but at least the Battle VIP Pass, good chance to check your deck and to get a couple of these cards down, these Comfies. So important with this flower selecting to make sure that you can get this LostBox engine going.
Yeah, this is the absolute most important piece of the deck here. And in the opening turn, you're generally looking to get at least 2 cards into the Lost Zone. It makes you feel a little more comfortable understanding that, of course, you can't use that Colress experiment just yet, but certainly you can get your hand to a position where eventually you could find those cards.
As well, Radiant Greninja, being able to put that down on the bench. The concealed card, such a powerful way of being able to consistently see cards, make sure that once you discard an energy, you can draw 2 more, just to make sure you're never dead drawing. You always have what you need.
And we see Michael definitely valuing that Manaphy to start things off here. Very important card to have against the RegiGigas deck, as you don't want to allow the Regieleki to attack the bench and get some additional damage added up. You see those Comfies only have 70 hit points, and if they get targeted early on, you lose a lot of prize cards.
Third Battle VIP Pass on this very first turn. I'm betting bench already pretty full, but a good opportunity to just grab one last card, and that will be that little Cramorant.
Yeah, a nice find here. Of course, Cramorant, great card to include in the early game. If you can get those 4 cards into the Lost Zone, you're attacking for free. I think the one issue we see here right now is Michael has a giant 3 retreat cost Pokemon in the active spot, so let's switch cart that out of here.
Yeah, definitely nice having that in hand. Not only do you get that onto your bench away from the active, but a good opportunity to go ahead and go for that flower selecting. Look at the top 2, one in the hand, the other in the Lost Zone to start getting those cards stacked up.
This is one of my favorite things to see is seeing top-level players piloting a deck where you have to make so many decisions. We saw Grant Manley many times before in this situation, continually just flower selecting over and over again, and you're going to have to make some difficult decisions down the road. Thankfully for Pramawat, Battle VIP Pass number 4, that's an easy one to throw in the Lost Zone.
You've used 3, the 4th goes right into the Lost Zone. Absolutely perfect. And 2's all it's going to be this time around, is it's going to be the pass on to Matthew.
A very solid start there from Michael, and now Matthew has some options to consider. You see the starting off with that quick ball, and I think we saw at least a way to draw a little bit with the lightning energies, so maybe a setup's on the horizon.
And that's so important for these Regi decks as well. I mean, your bench has to be chock full of these different Regis of all different variants to make sure that engine can be up and running. So any way that you can start getting them out early is going to be nice. Quick ball, definitely a great way to do so.
Yep, just going to go ahead and throw away that path to the peak. Not terribly impactful. Could have turned off the Radiant Greninja, I suppose, but got to be focused on your own strategy at this point, and that means get the Regidrago, try to thin this hand down, draw some cards if you can, but you got to get this bench full.
Yeah, and being able to just go for that setup right away, especially with a bit more opportunities in hand to hopefully be drained through, is definitely going to be nice here. You can see even speed energy on top and trekking shoes.
Yeah, we see the RegiGigas in hand as well, so just a thought of how to order these things. Speed Lightning definitely going to be looking for Pokemon here, or at least a way to get those, and does find the Ultra Ball along with an additional supporter option.
a couple different options to choose from. I mean, there's the Marnie in hand. You now have the Professor's Research. And of course, being able to just go for this Ultra Ball. Another path to be into the hand, but it's going to be the Marnie and the Ordinary Rod pitched instead.
And we saw Michael play around potential Marnie, threw down that Choice Belt onto the Cramorant. So I never want to see this card again. It's completely useless in the matchup, and I'm not going to play another tool on you. So go ahead and take this, and hopefully, if I ever do lose some cards, I can find some better ones later on.
Registeel is going to be the Pokemon of choice off of this Ultra Ball to get that place on the bench. But going back to that Choice Belt, little decisions like that can be just so impactful. Make sure everything in your deck, to whatever degree you can control, is going to be something that helps you out.
We'll see if looks like Matthew has a good understanding of the prize cards here. He's going to play this hand all the way down and grab that Registeel. So hopefully the other two Reggies, if necessary, are available or within reach. Unfortunately, already played that Speed Lightning, so not going to get to use that capture to help out.
Tracking Shoes opportunity, but instead pulls a Marnie off of it. One Ultra Ball in hand, but it looks like it would only be one more available Reggie to grab on this turn.
And there's an opportunity to get an additional energy into the discard pile. That seems to be one thing that's also lacking from this setup. Is you generally love to see at least one Aurora energy, like preferably two if you really could. And we don't have any of those. Right now it looks like just the one capture will be able to find its way into the discard pile and try to get something going eventually with Ancient Wisdom.
I'm getting so close to filling up this bench. Gonna fall just that little bit short this time around, but pretty good effort besides that.
Yep, and this is a fairly good setup for Matthew. He's not going to get a turn one attack, and I mean, if we're expecting turn one attacks, I think Matthew just wins the whole tournament if he does that every game. So you got to be happy with this. It still has multiple supporter options for next turn and was able to find a fair amount of Pokemon. So Michael definitely still has to find some aggression in this next turn because you can't start losing the prize race here.
First Flower selecting on the turn to scoop up net. So, I mean, easy decision, but still hurts having one of those go into the lost zone before playing the other one down to get the other Comfy into the active. This is going to be then the fourth card going into this lost zone.
Yeah, and it's starting to pile up here now. We know that Cramorant would love to help out and deal some damage. The problem is that you don't knock out this Regieleki, and there's a card in this deck called a Scoop Up Net, and that's a problem.
Yeah, it's going to be definitely a little bit of an awkward game just in terms of the damage output that Michael's going to be able to have and just the fact that it's not quite there in these cases. So definitely a little bit of a hurdle to overcome.
Yeah, love seeing Michael continuing here, going to extend even further, has the Colruyt Experiment now to get to the magic number 7, and maybe Mirage Gate opens up some better attacking options.
Especially to LostBox decks, come in a lot of different flavors in what they want to be adding. I mean, we've already can see for Michael that the Zekrom is one of the Pokemon that he's decided to add into this list. And there's quite a few different attackers that can be enabled so well with Mirage Gate that can really help you in these types of matchups.
Yeah, Michael is also featuring the Raikou, which is a nice way to get some additional damage down and potentially start working on the multiple knockout scenario where you start to get ahead in that prize exchange. And we are going to see it's just that 110 damage from the Cramorant there, spitting innocently. And now the pressure's back over to Matthew. Thankfully, it didn't give up any prize cards just yet and has an opportunity to hopefully find some special energy cards in the discard pile.
It did pull a Reggie off the top of the deck, but going to be the Registeel, and that's not necessarily going to be the impactful, but having the capture energy this time around, that is going to be the final Reggie necessary, that Regirock onto the bench.
Yeah, great find here, and going to need some help now from the supporter for the turn to help out. It's certainly not impossible from this stage to get a good attack, but we could also just see a Static Shock.
Well, the supporter for turn, that one's going to be the Marnie. Shuffle your hand, put it into the bottom of your deck, grab 5. Your opponent instead grabs 4. Don't have to throw anything away and can disrupt Michael's hand a little bit too in the process.
All right, well, we see the Quick Ball along with the Speed Lightning energy means that at least you can do a little bit more with that Regieleki. So opening up the Terra Spark, but you're not going to get to take advantage of any of the bench damage due to that mana fee.
There it is, just going to grab another Regieleki there off of that quick ball in this case. But of course, the energy going into the discard, the important part.
Yep, just a nice find. Get an additional Pokemon. If you do have that Regieleki knocked out, you have the following one to continue to have all of the Regis in play. And we are going to see that Ancient Wisdom ability. The reason why this Regigigas deck works so well, you get to get these energies down for free from the discard pile and start to line up some big attacks. Just going to be the Terra Spark this time around, though.
Yeah, it definitely takes a little bit of work to get all of the variant Regis out onto the field, but such a big payoff once you do. And then the Terra Spark for the KO onto the Pramawat to start getting some prizes under your belt.
Well, Michael is not slowing down. We see another Colrus Experiment, and that means that we're going to see 9 in the Lost Zone, and assuming that we see that Comfy as well, we'll get to magic number 10, and that means Sableye is going to line up. Sableye is interesting as it does open up an opportunity for Michael to place a lot of damage counters onto the bench, and maybe we start to see knockouts lined up where we could see that Raikou do a little work. You get these Pokemon within a range of 120, and you can start taking 2 prize cards at a time.
Yeah, being able to sprinkle damage counters around the board makes the math a little less awkward to where all of a sudden you can be taking those prizes that you want and not be at risk of having to take multiple turns just to get 1 or so prizes.
Well, certainly a decent hand. We see the reach there with the Air Balloon to continue to draw cards, the Mirage Gate as well to help out, and I think we're just missing a Sableye if that wanted to get involved here.
Yes, a couple of them still in the deck, but right now you have to Mirage Gate instead to be getting those energies, start powering up a different attacker and start setting up the game. It'll be 2 energies going onto that benched Zekrom.
And Zekrom certainly could take the knockout here. You could just go ahead and do a slash. Feels pretty bad. You had to use 2 full attacks to knock out 1 Regi, but maybe there's a little more left here for Michael this turn. We'll have to see what else he can find.
Bench a Snorlax with an energy on it and going for the retreat. It will be just the Zekrom going into the active, and feels a little bit bad, but at the same time, you do have to do what you got to do. You can't start falling behind in the prize trade, and decks that are these single prize attackers.
Yep. One benefit here for Michael is we've not seen the Aurora energies at all, so the other Regi Pokemon getting involved in the action seems a little less likely. That's why we see the promotion here from the Regigigas, but are the energies going to be around? Do we see a potential twin energy to help out in this spot, getting to the 5th energy for the attack?
Hisuian Heavy Ball going to be played, grabbing a Regigigas from the prizes, of course replacing the Heavy Ball into the prizes and being able to put that Regigigas into hand, though just going to be discarded. Big Professor's Research coming out to grab a fresh 7.
And a decent find here as well. This is the twin energy is available, so that should help out in taking a knockout here. We also see, obviously, that Regieleki is a fantastic draw, and the Ordinary Rod, too. So you just pick out which Regis will help out the most here. Obviously worried about the 2 main attackers in the deck right now, as the Aurora energies are just not available for the rest.
Regigigas, this entire deck, this is such a nuisance to deal with, too, with all the different recovery options for these. I mean, you put this effort into taking down 1 Regigigas, 1 Regieleki, and then they just Ordinary Rod them back into the deck and then just keep on going. And you're putting an effort in taking these KOs, and it kind of just seems to lead you nowhere sometimes.
Yeah, it's pretty dangerous, and especially when you get to take advantage of cards like that gift energy along with it. It just means that as you're continuing to recycle these Pokemon, you're also refilling your hand. And that's a very valuable resource for this deck, as oftentimes that was how it lost historically, was it just got Marnied or Roxanne, found nothing, and couldn't continue. But a great card to add into this list here.
Colress's experiment once again. Michael's end already had the 10 in Lost Zone, but a good way to make sure that you can get rid of cards that you don't need and see 3 cards that you do. Try and make sure that you can be keeping up. You don't want to be falling too far behind with the prize trade whatsoever and have to respond with a good attacker.
Well, a good attacker is definitely the only thing that Michael's missing at this stage. It's been really unfortunate as he has all the energies and everything in it. Sure enough, that's a choice that you're going to have to make, Michael. It's I believe that was Raikou and Sableye at the same time.
That's what happens when there's only good things left in your deck, because all of a sudden the flower selectings are getting a lot more tricky.
Oh, the Sableye is so good right now, but the Raikou is the way that you clean up the game, and I think Michael understands just that.
Really a tough situation to be in. The Psychic Energy already was in hand too. It would have been so nice for the Sableye, but of course you can maybe have another crack at a Sableye later on.
Yeah, we see that the list, of course, does feature 2 of these Sableye, so an opportunity there maybe later on. Could mean that Michael just has to get aggressive with the Raikou now and just cash in on the damage and then eventually clean up with the Sableye, but it feels out of order because you'd like to use the Sableye spread to almost all 6 of these Pokemon, it feels like, or at least 5 of them for the prize map, and then you don't worry about the scoop up net taking away so much damage.
Yeah, if you're going for the Raikou first and deal that good amount but not quite enough damage, then that just leaves the window open to just scoop up net 1 by 1 as opposed to everything just having that little bit of chip. But other way to really be going about that, it is going to be bench in the Mirage Gate for the energies.
And the deck is certainly very thin at this point. Michael is going to have to be careful in making sure that he's got all of the resources to close things out here. Looked like there's about 8 cards left, another Ordinary Rod. So we could see the reuse of this Raikou multiple times, but definitely the Sableye is going to be that big key piece to cleaning up the rest of the prize cards.
Third energy from hand going to be attached onto that amazing Raikou on a bench. Surely getting ready for an attack at this point. An Air Balloon, the nice free retreat, is going to come into the active.
Now an opportunity lines up. It's do you want to take the knockout on the Alecki or keep the damage in play? And I like this. Gonna go ahead and target down the RegiDrago. And this leads for an opportunity where you can remove multiple Regis at the same time in one big turn, and that's an opportunity where Matthew might not be able to find all of these key pieces at once, and then won't have the energies to attack.
Definitely puts him in a position where there has to be that sort of response, or all of a sudden you're going to find yourself down a couple of Regis and possibly down at the game. Ordinary Rod may be played. Of course, with how you rose through these Regis, there is a couple in the discard. It's going to be that RegiDrago and the Regieleki to go back in the deck.
I'm not sure if my Ordinary Rod count is correct, but I think this is number 3 at this point. Gonna see the Drago shuffled back in and another Regieleki, but maybe that opens up an avenue where you could remove a Pokemon like the Registeel or something. And if you find the right Regi and remove that from play, and there's just one in the prize cards or one that's difficult to find, then there's going to be no energy acceleration.
Yeah, and especially with that being such a key piece to make sure that this Regigigas, Regieleki, that these Pokemon can keep attacking. That's definitely one of the paths to victory that you can be able to find, because even just a couple of turns of scrambling around for that one Regi that you're missing could be those couple of turns where you're taking these constant prizes and be putting yourself ahead in this trade.
We're going to see what Matthew's thinking of this time around. Has the Aurora energy in hand. Could get some more special energies into the discard pile. There's a Quick Ball as well, so looks like he already has 3 energies to choose from, and I think this is a time where you'd like to play some energies down onto the bench, make use of just the fact that Regigigas may be knocked out. You might not be able to immediately use Ancient Wisdom on the following turn, just depending on if a Sableye comes down, and you'd like to have an opportunity to attack with a Pokemon and not also be completely reliant on that ability.
The Aurora Energy going to go onto the bench. RegiDrago, the one with all the damage counters on it. Sometimes you have to be going for what you need to. Looking at the retreat at this point,
Yeah, this is going to be, it looks like the RegiDrago is going to move up into the active spot. I don't think that there's enough cards to make use of Dragon's Horde, but certainly could take the knockout here with a Pokemon that you're not terribly invested in, only has 10 more hit points.
Of course, being able to get the 3 energies can go for the Giant Fangs for the 160 for this KO. Bring it down to just 2 prize cards left.
This is so dangerous. The seeing the prize cards, the Regice and the last Ordinary Rod, if I have my counts right, are in the prize cards, and that means that, I mean, it would take quite a read. But if Michael understood and was able to remove that Regice at some point, that would be quite the turn.
Definitely has to also be quite the read, though, at that point, too. But definitely could be a really situation. Another Power selecting. Going to grab the Ordinary Rod, but the Zigzagoon's going to go in the Lost Zone.
Yeah, that's just another really tough call. Like, obviously, the bench space would have been a problem, but the extra damage counter from the Zigzagoon seems like it would have been so phenomenal in a stage like this. Not going to have that opportunity, though, as he had to make a choice with the Ordinary Rod, and Ordinary Rod's a pretty good card.
Yeah, and at least now you have this Sableye, you have the energy, and it's time to start putting down some damage counters. Already with the damage on the board, unable to be taken off, is definitely a nice place to start.
Yeah, 7 damage counters left, and I'd like to see at least enough of a spread to where 120 would be a knockout. And we can also see Michael considering Cramorant as a potential Pokemon too, with 110 being an area for the Regilucky, and then says, I've got an extra damage counter lined up too. You can have that one as well.
Why not? If you might as well use it for something, right? But 2 prize cards grabbed for Pram off of that turn, bringing an even prize count to both players.
Wow, and just looking at the hand, Matthew is gonna be completely reliant on a Marnie or a top deck at this stage. Does find Quick Ball, which is huge here, but now needs to make sure that he finds the right Pokemon. The counts are important. I believe that there's probably an equal count of the Drago and the Gigas at this stage, so just going to pick the one that maybe draws some cards and helps out in this stage. The Scoop Up Net is also in the hand, so Dragon's Horde is available, and this could be a good turn, even though it started pretty scary.
Of course, it will be that Scoop Up Net now. Damage counters coming off the Regilucky, but more importantly, this RegiDrago being pulled into the active to make use of this Dragon's Horde's ability.
What a great strategy from Michael. We see that right now the prizes are tied 3-3, and the reach isn't really there for Matthew to take additional prize cards in a turn, but certainly for Michael that could be done with the damage that was placed. So you have to think that Michael's in a fairly good spot if the cards line up, and this is a very big turn for Matthew to find the rest of the pieces, and he's struggling.
Yeah, the trekking shoes didn't really amount to much, so you're going to have to hope for this Marnie that something a little better comes along your way.
Finds the quick ball. That's the Regigigas, and that's the one big piece that was missing. Was desperately looking for that. And both players very low on resources at this stage.
Definitely playing every card they can. The decks are so thin, but chock full of all of the good stuff. Look how fat that discard pile is. You got to be so careful to manage any resource too at this point, because one mismanaged could just be the end.
Yep, just trying to make sure to have all the, that's just Scoop Up Nets and Regis at this point. Gonna take the Regigigas here, but definitely the counts, you have to feel like there is a Pokemon that Michael could knock out at this stage and just put Matthew in a really rough spot.
Yeah, only I believe 4 cards left in deck, 3 in hand. You just get the right Regi out, and it's going to be not the greatest result for you. Being able to get all the Regis necessary on the board, though, can start to go for the whole sake of this deck. Grab those 3 from the discard, and it's going to be powered back up onto the RegiDrago for the KO.
Yeah, and this is one of the better Pokemon to be attacking with at this stage of the game. You don't lose those energies at any point due to Terra Spark. You get to hold on to those, and if any Pokemon are targeted on the bench, it's likely that the Regidrago is going to continue to attack at this point, and that's what you want to do. And you're really just relying on seeing if Michael has the final resources to continue to Mirage Gate out of nowhere, get these energies accelerated, when for Matthew it's so easy. You just take them out of the discard pile every single turn.
Especially when resources are so spent at this point. I mean, we've gotten to see that the 3 had to go on to Raikou. We saw that the Sableye has already been KO'd. There's a lot of cards, 12 cards in the loss out here for Michael. That's a bunch of good stuff. He had to make some tough choices. That's stuff he can't use anymore. So it could be tough for the resources available.
Michael's doing the finger dance, trying to figure out what to do here. Comfy's going to try to help out, finds the Ordinary Rod. And I guess I don't know if there's much of a decision there. You need every energy to be impactful. And maybe there's an opportunity for Snorlax to start to get involved here. I don't know if there's another energy left in the deck right now, but I don't know if there's enough reach for a Pokemon like the Raikou and the Sableye at this stage. I think that grass energy in play on the Snorlax means that you basically just need those Pokemon to get involved, unless there is an additional energy there in the deck still.
At least Ordinary Rod to get a couple more energies. You got to make sure you're grabbing the right ones out. Make best use of what the Pokemon are required, but grabbing the Sableye and the Raikou to be putting back into your 2-card deck at this point.
So if there were a grass energy in those last 2 cards remaining, then we could see the Raikou involved. If not, then it gets a little more sketchy. And it looks like just the psychic energy and the metal. So yes, Snorlax is going to have to get involved here. Try to remove this Drago and to make this a little more difficult for Matthew. If he does not have Regidrago to follow up, this is going to get dangerous. Matthew checking the deck to see if there's a deck out strategy potentially lined up. Gets the news there's still about 4 cards there.
It'll be the Snorlax coming into the active Thumping Snore for the KO, but of course now has to be rolling 2 dice to try and wake up. No wake up this time around, but we'll have another crack at another opportunity. Now Matthew, it'll be the Regirock put on forward in this Hooian Heavy Ball. Go back into the prizes, and nothing's there. It's going to be Michael's game to start things out.
Yep, scooping things. Michael is going to be prizing one of those grass energies, only plays 2, and it looks like just 2 Regis on the other side for Matthew. A little better than last time. Excited to get things underway here. See if Matthew can tie up this series.
Going to go first to start things out here. Good chance to just get things going. Trekking shoes, start things off. Instant chance to go into these prize cards and grab out one of these Regis.
And, I guess one thing that's cool to note here is you don't have to check your deck and see what's going on. You just saw all your prize cards, and you need to save as much time as you can in these spots. So good on you, Matthew.
Yeah, 2 birds, 1 stone. Love to see that, and being able to get that attacker out of the prizes. You now know what's there, and it's only going to be the Regieleki left. Being able to bench that as well, the Registeel going down. Getting a good little start to the setup that you need.
A lot of energies in the hand here, so I like seeing the use of that Aurora energy to get at least one of these into the discard pile. Hopefully you find that later on, and it's going to obviously hold that Marnie for a later turn.
Now, Michael's turn to start. And again, gonna be able to start things off with the Battle VIP pass for a really quick setup. Comfy in the active is already a good start, and this is just gonna make it even better.
Yeah, it is. It's not a lot of pieces to have the optimal turn here for the Lost Stone deck. You're really just trying to use 2 Comfeys, and then that Colress Experiment. If you can get to that, then all you just need to do is end the turn with Cramorant in the active spot. You're dealing 110 damage, and that opens up avenues for you to place damage counters on multiple Regis at the same time, and eventually start taking those double knockouts.
A cool card. I mean, it is discarded, so we're not seeing it, but that Zacian going into the discard, kind of cute, just going into these inclusions that these LostBox decks can have. But the Battle VIP pass as well is a card put down. Gonna have the 2 Comfeys, Manaphy, and the Radiant Greninja to start.
Yeah, Michael is prepared for a lot of different decks, and that's why I think that this is going to be a deck that has a lot of success at this tournament, just having that Zacian for different matchups. But of course, we see that there's a lot of reach in a matchup like this that even feels slightly unfavored. When you're able to attack with Snorlax, Zekrom, the Raikou as well, we can see so many different Pokemon find a pivotal role here.
A nice flower to selecting to start things off, being able to grab that Chorus's Experiment. So if you already have one from the Comfy, you can get 2 more in the Lost Zone from the Chorus Experiment, get a couple cards that you need, and a really easy way to make it into for this turn in that ideal first turn setup.
Well, I like all of these cards. I'm kind of worried for Michael. I think the Quick Ball maybe makes the cut here, but the Mirage Gates are tough because you don't want to lose all of those. You want to at least have the reach with 2 of them throughout the game. If you have the Sableyes involved early on, then maybe you don't need to have that 3rd or 4th, but needs to continue to draw here.
The Zekrom and the energy. It's going to be the Zekrom going into the discard this time around. I mean, it didn't do the most damage last time around. The Raikou, the Sableye, that's all a lot nicer to be attacking with, and the energy is so important.
Yeah, it's very nice to know where the energies are, even if they're in the discard pile. At least you're gonna have access to them when you need them at the pivotal points, and even just finding the retreat here with an energy feels really strong.
It's point 2. Once you have the 4 in the Lost Zone, you can start eyeing up for things like this Cramorant. Try and make sure that you can be putting on this early pressure. Sure, you're not going to be getting enough for a KO from that Cramorant, but at the same time, we got to see that Matthew didn't really have the scoop up nets as a response in taking damage off. So any way to put that damage on is going to be helpful.
And that can open up some avenues here. And you already see that there's 4 cards in the Lost Zone, so getting to 7 isn't terribly unlikely. That opens up who knows what attacking at that stage. You can get aggressive with all sorts of Pokemon and start taking multiple prize cards.
Right, spit innocently to end things off. Just put out some damage onto this Regigigas before going on to a Professor's Research to start off the turn for Matthew.
And that always feels bad. You could only find 3 Regis, and sure enough, you have a Registeel in hand. It's not one that works out, but this hand is great. We see the Regidrago, the Alecki, and the Quick Ball, so all 6 Regis will be found here going into turn 2.
Honestly, you can't really ask for much better at that point, being able to, on the turn, you can actually go for an attack, being able to have a way to get all of it. And the Quick Ball, too, since you do have that special energy in hand, good way to be able to just get rid of it right there.
We also see the gift energy is in the discard pile as well. In the early stages of the game, this is where Pokemon are being knocked out by damage instead of damage counters, so there's an opportunity to cash in on that card and continue to refill your hand. So would love to see that card involved here.
Sure enough, that Quick Ball, to absolutely nobody's surprise at this point, will be grabbing that Regice to make sure that this group of Regis is complete. What do you call a group of Regis? Just group of Regis?
A gaggle of Gigas? Yeah, I don't know.
Well, we have that going on there. So now we can start looking at this energy acceleration, this ancient wisdom to be grabbing the special energy from the discard and go for a KO.
Yeah, that is a strong play there. Getting a big knockout early on, and this is the spot that you love to put Michael Pramawat in. When you start taking the early prize cards and you put this deck on the back foot, if you can start to use those scoop-up nets as prize removal and take away all of that damage, then easily you can see an avenue where Matthew just continues to push the aggression.
Point off a Chorus's Experiment Choice Belt, fantastic to throw into the Lost Zone, as well as an energy getting to 6, 1 away from being able to go to the Mirage Gate, and that flower selecting will be enough to at least get that accomplished.
Yeah, I think we see the Metal and the Sableye. It's never easy, is it, Sableye? Gonna see you later. Well, at least your brother. You're gonna take a nap there in the Lost Zone. The Metal energy is way too valuable at this stage. Just wants to have the additional reach, and one of those metals, I believe, was in the discard pile.
Yeah, have to make sure the attackers are nice, but if you have no way to be getting those attackers enabled, then that's going to also be spelling your end at that point.
Well, with 7 in the Lost Zone, Radiant Greninja is going to draw a little more, and we see a lot of reach here. The Mirage Gate can help out to get some of these Pokemon going. Is this a stage where you feel comfortable using the Raikou early on? It could get 2 prize cards, and well, actually, I don't know if that's available. Yeah, this is the other Regieleki. So actually thinking around these things, Matthew is.
Gonna make the big decisions here at this point. Definitely a lot of cards in hand, and is eyeing up this Raikou. I mean, it's a weird spot. You don't want to be finding yourself not being able to accomplish anything with these turns, so you kind of have to do something, but it's still a tough choice.
Yeah, he's Michael's definitely seen this before and considered the Raikou for a moment there, but maybe it is just time for Pramawat to get the job done here, and maybe you can make up for the lost prize cards later on down the road. A Sableye could certainly happen as early as next turn, and we're right back where we were in game number 1, just maybe 1 turn behind.
It'll be that gift energy to end things off as well, off of that Pramawat KO. That's definitely nice when you're piloting a deck like these Regis, to make sure that you always have cards available in your hand and get yourself set up. RegiDrago going to be promoted into the active to start things out.
Well, looks like there is a capture energy in the hand there, so that should help out in finding that Regigigas. Ordinary Rod as well, if he wants to guarantee that, but I think he has a good idea of what's prized and what's not. We've seen them already.
Yeah, when you start off the game by being able to see exactly what's there, you don't have to do any of the guesswork. You don't have to keep checking your deck. You are set and ready to go. Ordinary Rod to make sure that there's going to be what's necessary in your deck.
Yep, and the hand is interesting to say the least. There's plenty of energy cards, and for whatever reason, just all of the Regieleki, and it's not exactly time to attack with the Regieleki here, as the Manaphy is still out there. It's just not a valuable Pokemon here, so maybe we'll see that Marnie used, but it is also nice to know where the energies are.
And capture energy to be going onto that Regis. Make sure that last Regi necessary, that Regigigas will be able to make it onto field, but a big professor's research there.
That is a huge risk. We already saw that Ordinary Rod used, but thankfully does find another one here off of the 7 cards. And there's certainly a benefit to this. Having those energies all in the discard pile now means that so many different attacks are open, and RegiDrago going to have those 2 Aurora energies to start doing work here with the Giant Fangs.
Yeah, Path to Peak put down just before going for this KO with the RegiDrago. Just make sure after the peak that the concealed cards, Michael has a little less way of being able to draw into anything else.
Oh, we see Michael starting things off with the Training Court, which is a card that we haven't seen included in a lot of the Lost Zone decks, or at least it's been that 61st card for a lot of players, and it certainly is a fantastic resource when you're trying to find all the right energies to close things out, have the right energy for the Raikou and other Pokemon that Zacian perhaps in opportunities, and now has a potential avenue to get aggressive once more with some of these big hitters.
Yeah, nice with the Training Court to be able to bump that path so you do have access to the concealed cards yet again. Make sure that this hand can just be absolutely flourishing.
One thing we have not seen this game is the Galarian Zigzagoon. That would be a fantastic Pokemon to incorporate at this stage of the game. We do see the Scoop Up Net in hand, so that would be really nice to find. And it looks like Michael is going to go ahead and use an Escape Rope here, trying to maybe draw a couple more cards, find some help.
Needs a little help at this point. Is going to have the Raikou down. But the Sableye is still kind of eluding the fact that you only have 1, since 1 is in the Lost Zone. It kind of hurts. It will be the Regigigas promoted on Matthew's end.
We've seen before where Michael has just attacked into the Regigigas. It's an awkward Pokemon, and if your opponent doesn't have a Scoop Up Net, it feels really good to attack into this Pokemon. Force them to have the energies, and we already see plenty of those energy cards already on the Drago.
Yeah, and then the energies are attached. I mean, those are energies that are no longer in that discard pile. You cannot be making use of this Ancient Wisdom to get those attached. So that's definitely nice. Mirage Gate, though, on Michael's end, considering there's more than 7 in the Lost Zone, can go ahead and grab 2 different energy cards from deck. And those are going to be attached into this amazing Raikou.
Yeah, not sure if Michael has the counts on the scoop up nets played for Matthew or just is thinking that with the hand size it's unlikely. But he's going to go ahead and take a look now to try to get all that information. Not seeing any nets there.
Yeah, but as long as Matthew maybe can't draw into them, you could still be okay with that. And if you don't have the option for the Sableye as of quite yet, considering just 8 in the Lost Zone. So it's one of those situations where you have to be going for what you can. Maybe if you can get this damage to stick, make it so Matthew has to have a response, you could be setting yourself up. Because we got to see in last game that, sure, there was some snipe damage happening with Raikou, but no scoop up net in response meant that Sableye could take multiple KOs in one turn when it did come out.
Yeah, this is a big opportunity right now. If Michael does get to keep this Regigigas in the active spot, that could be pretty strong. It looks like he's considering the boss's orders, so maybe he just wants to make sure to hit the right Pokemon now and not take a risk on the net there, I guess.
It's going to be that Registeel being promoted into the active from that boss's order, as the amazing shot is going to be dealing this damage onto that bench Regidrago.
Matthew is going to draw and try to find a way out of this. Still can't find a way to move this Registeel, but maybe can get enough energies into the discard pile to help out. I think we see a twin energy. It's going to be the Marnie to start.
So you can draw into one of those scoop up nets. If they're not in the discard, they're not in your hand, well, then they have to be somewhere, right? And sure enough, we will go ahead and grab one off of that Marnie, as well as Trekking Shoes, just an opportunity to see a couple more cards.
Yeah, this is the true power of this deck from Matthew. Just never really skips a beat, is able to continually draw a bunch of cards, and as long as you keep all 6 of these Pokemon in play, you're going to be having a good time. Regidrago is lined up to take a big knockout here, and Matthew even has an opportunity to extend a little more onto the board, get some energies down, and potentially just attaching this twin energy as a free retreater in that Regice.
Make sure that you set yourself up so no shenanigans can happen. End things off. We'll be taking the KO onto the amazing Raikou, another prize. Already taken half of them at this point, as Michael putting the Comfy into the active. Sableye still can be able at this point. You have to start thinking like where you have to be going if you're Michael.
Yep, and looks like Sableye is going to be the answer. We don't see the Galarian Zigzagoon in there, so maybe that was lost early on or is in the prize cards, but would have been a nice Pokemon to include. Instead, going to have to go for this strategy of getting the damage counters in the right place, but it doesn't work nearly as well when you're down 2 prize cards.
I think the Zigzagoon had to make a early exit into the discard to get everything else going, unfortunately. Could be getting the games mixed up, but we haven't seen it yet, and I think that's my best bet. Chorus's Experiment, this is going to be able to get that key number 10, make sure that the Sableye that Michael has gone for can, in fact, be able to attack once it hits the field.
Well, this is the spot to be in. You get to number 10 now. Sableye could remove the Regidrago and help out a little bit in softening up the rest of the Regis, but you start to worry. Obviously, this isn't an opportunity where you can try to go for game 3. We've been playing a long time now, just 5 minutes left on the clock, so maybe Michael can find a way to take the rest of these prize cards quickly, or at least stop the prize cards from Matthew.
Yeah, at least if you could just stop the bleeding, just stop the prize cards being taken, that could also then be a win con, because 5 minutes, not necessarily the most amount of time.
Looks like Sableye is almost ready to get going here.
Yep, eyeing it up, has the energy available, has a scoop up net. We'll get to that later though. We have to make sure we go through every bit of this ordinary rod to make sure that's the Zigzagoon right in the back of the deck. Make sure you can get those energies as well that you need for later on.
Yep, hanging out in the discard pile there, along with the Raikou. Good amount of energies, but we know that the resources are going to be there to get those back in. We did lose one Mirage Gate early on to the Lost Zone, but should have an opportunity to use a couple more of those, hopefully one or two more in the short time we have left here in this game.
And if that Raikou, there's going to be the energy to be following it up. Just make sure that you can have these attackers chained. Going to take this opportunity, grab this Galarian Zigzagoon. Be really nice to see that make an appearance, because that could be the difference maker with some of these numbers.
Yeah, especially with how many Scoop Up Net were still around. It can make a very strong impact once you use this card multiple times. So many of these Pokemon are going to be just 10 short of a knockout, and being able to cash in on that, so valuable when you're just one damage away from staying in the prize race.
Instead, though, for the last bench spot for this point, going to be valuing this Oranguru, be able to primate Wisdom, make sure that you have what you need at the top of your deck when necessary. Scoop Up Net, that will be able to pick up the Comfy, reopen up bench space, but more importantly, bring the Sableye into the active slot.
This is a spot that Michael is comfortable with against the Regi deck. It doesn't feel great knowing that you're down a couple prize cards, but at least you're going to take one here, and now you have to take as much information as possible when you're making these decisions. You want to make sure that all these Pokemon could potentially be knocked out if the Raikou gets involved again, and hopefully for Michael's sake, he'll be able to get two of those back-to-back, and that would line up for the last 4 prize cards.
You're going to be so careful with the math. You got to make sure that every damage counter, you don't leave any stone unturned at this point. Sure that you can try and chain, because the Sableye is going to stick around, but you want to make sure when that Raikou hits the field, you've set yourself up for success.
Well, you can see how he does the math. He's get everybody within 120, and then I've got a couple extra damage counters to play with. Maybe this Pokemon can get knocked out by a Cramorant. Maybe this Pokemon gets softened up by a Sableye. But ultimately, if I can go Raikou into Raikou, I'm gonna come out on top here.
Yep, and that'll be at least one prize to just get a little bit closer this point. But what we definitely have to notice is we are under 2 minutes left in this game.
Matthew, good timing there, finding an Ordinary Rod, but already has the Regidrago in hand, so maybe not liking that as much.
Instead, just going to go for this Marnie at this point. Make sure you get what you need. Make sure that you could try and make sure that Michael, because he still needs a couple of pieces. Once the Sableye goes down, he'll need Raikou. He's going to need the Mirage Gate. He'll need an energy. Make sure that he has as little opportunities as possible to get any of that.
Yeah, I think the most important thing is always going to be the hand disruption in that spot. Any of these Regis can continue to attack and take knockouts on these smaller Pokemon like the Sableye. You can get the job done there with the Regirock, but you have to have one of these Pokemon getting the job done. So Regidrago certainly could get that knockout here, keep the energies on, and you just want to make sure that Michael only has 4 or 5 cards to work with as he tries to chain together these big combinations with Raikou.
There'll be a capture energy put on to the bench, Regieleki and trekking shoes just to go. There's going to be another Scoop Up Net in hand at this point. I'm just going to get back up, throw this Regirock into active.
Yep, values the attacking with the Regirock over the Drago. Already has the Regirock in hand, so feels a little more comfortable there. But you have to think that maybe the Scoop Up Nets are a little more valuable as removing some of the damage counters. As this starts to get a little scary. I guess this also is a nod to the fact that your opponent does have a Galarian Zigzagoon, already showed it, so the Regirock could be softened up, and there's enough damage counters for the rest of these Pokemon to get knocked out by a Raikou eventually.
Kind of at the point where, yeah, the Scoop Up Net, you can take one thing off that has damage counters, but there's still 3 other Pokemon that are just as susceptible to getting KO'd by this Raikou. So it doesn't really quite make the difference. Michael in hand, a bunch of energy, Scoop Up Net, I believe also a Mirage Gate.
Yep, can't find the attacker yet. Could Scoop Up Net use Radiant Greninja? You could try to draw a little more here.
And at this point, time is done, and Michael is going to be turn 0 going into this. And at this point, too, if you just don't lose, if you can also just take the win that way. But Matthew, only 2 prizes needed to close out the game, tie it up.
Mirage Gate going to be the play here. Don't know if any of these Pokemon really need energies unless it's just for retreating purposes.
Little bit of a weird, awkward situation. You would love to see this Mirage Gate onto something like this Raikou. There's something that's going to be dealing more damage, but the hand just not really in the greatest of positions, so really off that.
Yep, this could definitely be Michael just trying to buy a little time. Just can't see the cards there to take the 4 prizes necessary. The Raikou needed to already be in hand by the time we get to this stage.
And it's a tough spot to be in because the rest of the hand looks okay, just not having that attacker. So Mirage Gate, it's going to be the 2 energies going on to this benched Radiant Greninja.
Those aren't water energies.
No, sir, they are not.
Don't get your hopes up, people. That Radiant Greninja is just trying to look cool.
Hey, I mean, where else are you going to put the energies? You're going to hit them with Comfy?
Every once in a while, you want to spin. Do 30. That's pretty cool.
I'll literally go for a little style here. Scoop up net, get the Comfy out of the active. Little hand disruption in return with this Marnie. Tough spot to be in.
Yeah, just not many resources left. One benefit here is you're using the Marnie, and your opponent just used Giga Impact, so they're going to need to retreat at some stage, but you haven't taken any Regis out of play, so all these energies will be available to find a Pokemon that takes a knockout here, even through the 130 hit points. Should line up to where Matthew can continue to use the Regidrago.
Yeah, definitely has the ways to be able, has the damage necessary to be able to take these KOs. Michael, at this situation, I mean, what can you really do with this hand? You've already gone for the Marnie. Like, I see you shaking your head over there.
Yeah, I'm having a hard time finding the answer. At least the Raikou could potentially knock out one of the attackers that could potentially do something, but it looks like certainly the energies will be available for Matthew to find a good attacker. Maybe if a card like Boss's Orders was still available for Michael, then we could see some stall strategy where there's just not enough energy cards to get the job done, as we already see 7 different energies on the board, but I think we've seen that already used.
Yeah, and having already used the Marnie too, I mean, you have to, there had to have been that choice there to get maybe something to be playing around with. See that this Aiku is grabbed and is benched at this point. Mirage Gate, basically nothing left in the deck. Not that it probably is going to matter there. I believe an energy and a Zigzagoon. That's 2 off of the Mirage Gate.
Are there actually enough resources to use this Raikou? That's
There
ridiculous. He has the metal and he still has a scoop up net. It looked like there was no way to get the job done with the early Mirage that happened there. But sure enough, with enough retreating with the Radiant Greninja and the double scoop up net to get the job done here, gets the attack off. And there could be an avenue if there's another Mirage Gate at the end. I just don't know if it's there.
Yeah, it's a tricky spot. The deck doesn't really offer too much Michael's end, so it's all going to be what's left in hand and what was available and grabbed off of the prize cards. And now Matthew in the hot seat. This is turn 1 for Matthew. So he'll have this turn and 1 more to close things out. Scoop up net, that's going to be taking the Regirock out of the active, most importantly, getting all those damage counters off of it.
Yeah, that means that Michael is not going to be able to win from prize cards. That was a Pokemon that could maybe be removed from the Galarian Zigzagoon, and then you could see another Raikou shot on 2 different Pokemon for the full 3 prizes to close out there. Instead, it's going to have to be finding a Pokemon that's big enough to take one last shot, as Matthew will be on turn 3 on the last turn of the game.
Definitely the opportunities to grab the last 2 prizes for Matthew still open, as long as the cards can align to go for that. RegiDrago going to be promoted into the active, and the Regirock instantly put down on to the bench. There's the quick ball in hand, but where is that Registeel that's needed?
Looks like we see 1 in the discard pile. So we'll see if the resources are still there. This is a part where this deck can struggle, is getting to the low hand size at the end of the game, but we do still see the RegiDrago has the Dragon's Horde ability. Looks like no steal is there, but is there a combination of cards? If you hit an Ordinary Rod and a way to search out this Pokemon, maybe you can take a knockout.
The quick ball and Path to Peak just discarded. Just full opportunities, get these cards out of the hand, make sure that this Dragon Horde can be effective as possible. The Aurora Energy, the attach, and the discard. Quick ball.
Just a little short.
Just not quite. The cards just aren't lining up here.
Yep, you see the head shake there from Matthew. Just a little bit of frustration. He's knocking at the door, potentially taking a big knockout here and staying in the prize exchange, but just going to be 1 Ordinary Rod short, it looks like, from at least being able to stay in the prize exchange. And that's just a pass of the turn.
Oh, that's a rough situation. I mean, Michael on his turn, yes, he had so much he had to do with getting that IQ out, but had the means to be able to do it with a deck. But Matthew just unable to quite get there. Different engine, not as much draw available, and is unable to get that card so crucially needed for this return KO. And it's a game off of that, I believe. What do? You can't come back from that. Where are your 2 prizes that you can get?
Yeah, this is rough. I like Michael, just get some cards into the deck or something. Don't just let anything weird happen. And, of course, your opponent is going to be on turn 3, so you don't have to worry about deck out stuff at this rate, but going to at least continue to play out from this stage for us.
Definitely have to make sure that the T's are crossed, the I's are dotted, make sure that there's absolutely nothing going wrong when you're just a turn away from closing it out. That Galarian zigzagging, you want to see so much finally making this appearance. That'll be a damage counter. Just put that onto the RegiDrago, but at this point, it'll be Michael. 2 more prizes, but most importantly is Matthew's response. Turn 3.
Oh, it was the next card.
The last one.
That's so unfortunate.
That's Regigigas for you.
Yep, that is exactly how Reggie plays here so often on stream. And what a absolutely huge win here for Michael Pram.